Hey there. How's it going? And, well, I guess if you're listening to this as the cold open, normally when this happens, it's usually because there's some kind of an update or announcement on the podcast, right? So this time, a pretty big announcement, actually. You may have noticed we've been off the air for a couple of weeks. That's because we have been gearing up to, to put it bluntly, we're doing a bit of a relaunch of the podcast. So if you've been listening this whole time, we've been doing this for we're getting close to 2 years, actually, all about growing up in the 90s and the early 2000s, and it has been an absolute blast. However, I have decided that it's getting harder and harder for me to come up with a weekly topic, 90s related, that I can get excited about, right? There's obviously a ton to talk about as it relates to the 90s, but there's only so much perspective that I can give, and I feel like for the most part, I have given all I can give on that front here, even with the guests that I typically bring on the show. So that being said, we are going to be doing a bit of a soft relaunch of the show here in the next few weeks. So these next few episodes, because it is WrestleMania season, we are covering WrestleManias of the 90s and early 2000s, those specifically being WrestleMania 10, WrestleMania 20, and then we're going to go ahead and do WrestleMania 30 as well, because of course, WrestleMania 40 is right around the corner, and maybe a little bonus surprise episode in between there, too, which you can stay tuned to find out about next week. But after that, we are going to be pivoting into something that I've honestly thought about doing for a while now, and that is still nostalgia-related, but we're going to be doing more on the retro gaming side. And this is for a couple of reasons. One, it's one of my favorite things to talk about with any of my friends is old video games, and there's never seems to be a shortage of topics and conversations because we played a lot of video games. Two, I feel like I need to narrow down the focus of the show because every week, even if it's just 90s related, there's not necessarily a guarantee as to what specifically is going to be covered. So what somebody may have enjoyed in the 90s on one week may totally not care about the next week. And I feel like at least with something like retro video games, you at least know what to expect every single week. So we're going to be going through all the WrestleManias here. And then after that, a soft reboot of the podcast, including a rename of the podcast, which we'll cover in this week's episode. And I hope you stick around. If you've been listening this whole time, I thank you because you're amazing and the reason that I do this every single week. But I'm also hoping that maybe you're also somebody that liked retro gaming or at the very least just would enjoy our perspective on retro gaming. So all that to come here. But first, we got a few more episodes of Generation S under our belts here to cover. So kick back, relax, and here's a coming of traction for this week's episode. Enjoy.
On March 20th, the greatest show on Broadway returns for a limited engagement. A star-studded ensemble.
These guys are world-class athletes.
The most lavish costumes.
Outstanding!
And performances so unbelievable, they'll take your breath away. On March 20th, the most spectacular show on Broadway will be performed live in your living room. WrestleMania 10, 10 years in the making, exclusively on pay-per-view.
We're back, ladies and gentlemen, there's no doubt.
What is it?
It's time to go back.
Welcome.
Hey there, welcome back to Generation S. It is a podcast about growing up in the 90s and the early 2000s. And let me put it to you this way. If you grew up in a time period where WrestleMania season was the peak of your childhood calendar year, this podcast might be for you. I'm Dan Kemp, joined by Generation S first ballot Hall of Famer, the one, the only, Lou Carnivale.
There you go. A swig of ginger ale for the working man.
Did you open it into the microphone? I didn't hear it.
You didn't hear it?
No.
Oh, no.
I didn't hear it.
Do it in post-production then.
All right.
Do it in post-production.
All right, we'll see. Anyway, guys, listen, thanks for sticking around. I know I made an announcement previously, just a quick little kind of update on the podcast. We had a 2-week hiatus and going to be some changes going on around here. on the podcast, actually. I figure we can kind of talk about it now, Lou. It's something you and I have both been discussing at length for a couple of weeks now. Long story short, when I started Generation S, I wanted to do a podcast about something that I could talk about consistently every week and not really get bored or burnt out or tired. And I thought, well, I grew up in the 90s and the early 2000s. Why don't we just do that? And I feel like for the first year and a half, because we've been going for about just over a year and a half now, I feel like we've had pretty consistent results with discussions and topics and things like that. But I'm starting to find that I've kind of said everything I wanted to say on growing up in the 90s and the early 2000s as far as different experiences from my childhood. And there's a few things I haven't covered yet, and we'll get to that in a minute. But we're going to be doing a bit of a rebrand here of the show. So starting in a few weeks after we get through WrestleMania season, we are going to be kicking off a brand new show here on the pod, and it's going to be on the same RSS feed. So if you already subscribed, great. This is just keep listening and they'll start popping through. But we are going to be starting a retro gaming podcast. And we're going to be calling it Backwards Compatible because I thought that name sounded cool as hell. And we're going to be, it's going to be retro. So some of my favorite podcasts that I listen to personally are old video game podcasts. And I wanted Lou, we've probably talked forever. Like every time we do a video game episode, we have so much fun. There's so much to talk about. And so, we both kind of just started saying like, well, God, why don't we just make that our thing going forward where, we talk about video games, but with the added bonus of like, if we're talking about a game that's going to be, related to a movie coming out or a TV show or whatever. So for example, let's say, we do The Lion King because we've got there's that Lion King movie that's coming out in, I don't know.
Like the fall, I think.
Is it the fall? I think it's the fall.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that too, right? So it's going to be still a nostalgia-centric podcast, but video games will be the driving factor, much like, quite frankly, most of my childhood was. Video games raised me personally, and I think you too, right? I mean, among other things, but we were both obviously very big gamers back in the day.
Yeah, and it's not going to be just games, it's not going to just be action games. It's going to be action games. It's going to be fighting games. Dare I say, we're probably going to do more sports than we've ever done, just going through the hypothetical lists that we had.
Yeah.
A game like NFL Blitz is going to be something that we're going to do. And, something like that is more than we've done. I know we've done a few sports episodes, not sports entertainment like today, but that'll be fun. It will be a nice change. It won't just be the game. It will be, obviously we're going to go through the history and the development, our memories and how it's sold and that stuff. But if there's something else attached to it at the time, like you said, The Lion King, we're going to do a Star Wars episode. There's plenty of Marvel movies and TV shows. So spoiler, there's going to be Marvel and DC games there too. But we're going to try to focus it with what's going on, what movie is coming out, what TV show is coming out, and try to pick a game that goes with that. It's kind of like picking out a good wine to go with your steak.
See, and there it is. And I would say, the steak in this case will be the video games, and we'll tie. And even if it's not related to something coming out pop culture wise, we're going to have plenty of stories to share, and there's still going to be a lot of reminiscing and a lot of core memories unlocked, which was still always my goal for the podcast, was to have you listen and say, oh shit, I remember that too. Maybe we'll talk about a game that you didn't realize you actually did play when you were a kid. Maybe you rented it at a Blockbuster. So I think there's still going to be plenty of opportunities. So hopefully you stick around. Again, we're going to be shifting away from the kind of pure 90s nostalgia and kind of giving it a bit more of a focus and going the retro gaming route. And we're going to cover games from all the way back from like probably the original Nintendo era, through those generations. And we'll probably go no further, at least at this point, to probably Xbox 360, Wii, PS3, which, believe it or not, folks, those systems came out almost 20 years ago at this point. So I think those count as retro, since they technically came out in the early 2000s. So It counts, whether you like it or not at this point. So we're going to be talking, and it'll be one game a week, and it'll be everything from Nintendo all the way up to Xbox 360. So very excited, nervous. Again, I'm hoping you guys stick around because I'm really excited to be doing this and kind of making this pivot. I think it's going to give longevity to the show, and really give some focus here. And I'm excited, man, because we always talk video games. So I feel like this is going to be something we can truly every week bring our A game. And I'll be honest, I feel like there's been episodes of just Generation S in general where I'm not always feeling it because it's something that I wasn't familiar with, but I wanted to get somebody on that was, because it was something that I knew that was important to our generation to hear about. Whereas this is going to be every week. It's going to be a game that I've played that I'm excited about or you're excited about. So I'm excited. It's going to be a lot of fun.
It will be. But today we're talking about something you know.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, and that's what I was going to say. So until we get there, we're not launching just yet. We've got a few more episodes of Generation S under our belt here, just in time for WrestleMania season. And much like a certain someone on the card, we're going to try to finish the story ourselves here in the next few weeks.
Oh, look at you.
See what I did there?
Do you hear that? That's everybody crying in the background.
That's right. Exactly.
Cody. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna before we get into so this week we're talking WrestleMania 10, because of big milestone, right? WrestleMania 40 right around the corner, so we've got time to talk about the big ones. WrestleMania 10 next week will be WrestleMania 20. Week after that will be WrestleMania 30. Actually, no, I take it back. There's going to be one little. There's going to be a surprise one in there between 10 and 20. Okay. So we'll talk more about that at the end of the show. Mm-hmm. But before we get into all that, let's just talk the current product because, dude, I am so excited for WrestleMania 40.
Is it wrong of me that I still don't want Cody to win?
Why don't you want Cody to win?
It's more entertaining now with The Rock involved. If The Rock can stay around, man, it's some good stuff.
Yeah, but I feel like I want The Rock to stay around, but I want him because I love that he's gone heel. I think that's perfect. Did you watch? So we're recording this February 19th. Did you watch this last Friday's SmackDown clips that he was on?
Yeah, it was.
Loved it.
Heel Hollywood Rock. And the funny thing is, there's kids that have no idea The Rock was a bad guy.
Yeah.
Oh, back in
and
the day.
If you think about it,
they have no idea.
He wasn't really a bad guy for that long back then. Like it was like a year.
No, not even. He came back at February, No Way Out.
That's true, and I guess by Backlash Hogan. He turned face after Goldberg.
He was heel for like 90 days.
Well, and I'm even thinking of before that from like the Attitude Era where he was Corporate Rock. But even then it was like Rock? A year or two.
No, Corporate Rock won the title in November of 98 at Survivor Series.
Yeah.
By summer of 99, he was a face.
That's true. And then before that, you had Nation Rock, which was only for, again, like a year or whatever. So either way, I mean, he's definitely been a face more than he's been a heel, and now he's a heel, and he's a very good. He's so good.
Yeah.
Oh, I love heel Rock. So, my point being is, I think that The Rock can stick around after Mania, have Cody win. I still want Cody to win, and have the shift go from Rock and Cody and Roman to Rock and Roman, and you have Roman work his way back and get for redemption to try to earn his place as the head of the table against The Rock in a passing of the torch. So
the weird thing is, and I don't watch WWE that much. I mean, I watch it. I don't watch every episode. I watch every live premium live event. Outside of Cody, who do they and Roman? Who else do they really have that's a world title contender? Seth Rollins obviously is the world champion. Okay. Punk's injured. Drew McIntyre they keep saying has 1 foot in, 1 foot out of the company. Who else is a main event talent? Ain't gonna be Brock Lesnar.
It's not Lesnar, obviously. I would say I have two.
Gunther.
I would say Gunther, and then I would say maybe L.A. Knight, but as like a guy that'll main event, but he's not going to win, but it's fine.
Yeah, it's very sad. I'd even say AJ Styles. Like I don't know what he's been doing for the last 2 years.
That's true. Yeah, he's not really been in the. And then Randy Orton too, or is he injured again? Is he injured again?
He's
or
back.
no?
He fought at Rumble.
Yeah, but did he get injured at the Rumble match, or was that just a rumor?
I don't think he did.
Okay, I can't remember.
I don't think
I'd be honest. I don't follow the product as closely as we. The last time I followed the product with any consistent continuity was like when we were in college. So like 2007, 2008. Once I got out of college and I'd stopped watching every week. I'm like, I would keep up with it like online or whatever, but even then, it's like it's not the same. And I'm pretty excited because WWE is coming to Netflix for like Raw. So I don't know, maybe starting next year I will get back into watching it every week because like I haven't had cable in like over 10 years, so like I really haven't had a chance to watch Raw consistently anyway.
Well, one of your sons like wrestling now, so that's going to help.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, well, but the thing is, if it comes on at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, then like it's way past his bedtime.
You watch it the next day,
and that's true.
You watch it the next day. It's on Netflix.
You're right. So.
And you can skip through the commercials. Like, this is totally off topic, but it is on topic. Last night was the NHL Stadium Series. It was okay. I could watch it, but I had things to do. And I'm like, well, I could watch it on a delay or this. I'm like, no, I'll just watch it tomorrow and skip through all the commercials, skip through 2 20-minute intermissions, and the 3.5 hour hockey game was, I watched it in 1 hour and 15.
Yeah, and you didn't miss anything.
I don't miss anything. I just stayed it off. And the same thing with Raw. If Raw's going to be on Netflix and you have it, just watch it the next day and boop, through the commercials.
Yeah, that's true. I think you can. I don't know how they're going to set it up on Netflix, but hopefully you can skip some of the ads.
If you want to talk about Monday Night Raw, the bad years of Raw are here in 1994. Oh my God.
Yeah, well, that's
this is bad.
Fantastic.
This is
segue.
bad shit.
Yeah, because we are in prime new generation era WWF at this point, right? With WrestleMania 10.
We are. Yeah, the new generation is about to happen. I mean, it's happening. I don't know if they're calling it yet, but we're not like knee deep. No, we're knee deep. We're not waist deep. With Vince McMahon going, the most charismatic, the most flamboyant champion in WWF history, as a grown man is stripping, showing his ass on national TV. And I'm like, as a kid, I'm like, why am I watching this?
So, for me personally, I would label the new generation era as 94, 95, 96,
yes.
And a lot of 97, too, quite frankly.
Yeah, I think the Attitude Era happens WrestleMania 13.
I would say 14. I don't know. I guess I don't know because I guess DX, but I feel like even then it still was presented in a I don't know. It's somewhere between WrestleMania 13 and 14 for me.
Okay, well then SummerSlam 97 then.
That's true. Okay, I could get behind that around then because but SummerSlam 97 was that
Bret and Austin?
That's right. That was Bret.
No, sorry.
No. It was
Bret and Taker.
Bret and Taker with Shawn as the special guest referee, and he was not in DX. He hadn't formed DX yet, right?
DX formed because of Undertaker.
That's right. Yeah. So
let's just put it this way: do you think Kane debuted in the Attitude Era or the New Generation?
That's true because I see him as an Attitude Era wrestler, but if he debuted in 97, then I mean you're right.
I think literally, to me, if you said, Lou, when does the Attitude Era start? It's not. I would pinpoint at WrestleMania 13. It's when Austin is dragging, when he's bloodied, he's dragging himself to the ring ropes in that match against Bret Hart. I go, that's Attitude.
That's fair. Okay. Yeah. All right. So part of 97.
Yes, and then to me, the Attitude Era ended at WrestleMania 18.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
Once the brand extension happened, then you were in ruthless aggression.
There it is. Okay, fair enough. But it all starts with the new generation because we're at the tail end of the golden age of wrestling. Numbers are down from, if you look back, as far as attendance and buy rates, everything was down. I think the steroid scandal had a lot to do with that. I think you probably agree, right? As far as, and the reason the new generation came in is because he was pushing smaller stars that were clearly not on steroids, that you could tell at least. And I don't know. I feel like it was all kind of a perfect storm of mediocrity.
Here's the thing, though. You look at the talent.
Oh, sure.
Like, it started to change at WrestleMania 8. It was like we had discussed multiple times on this show that Royal Rumble 92 is among the best ever.
Yes.
1992 in general was 92 and 93 was the changing of the guard.
Yep.
Hogan was leaving or gone. Warrior was gone. Savage was pretty much retired. DiBiase was retired. Jake Roberts is gone. Like, those are the stars of the golden years.
Yeah.
And then you got Bret Hart coming on to his own, Shawn Michaels, Razor Ramon, and going with what you said about smaller guys. Yeah, Bret and Shawn, by no means just for a normal non-wrestler, those are not small men.
Right.
They're not. They're big men. I can say this because I met both of them, and I'm like, Shawn is like, oh, he's a big dude, but on TV, he's a smaller wrestler. They pushed Shawn and Bret, and Razor was a big guy, but he looked like a big guy. He didn't look like Hogan. There was a difference.
Right.
And then Yoko was Yoko.
Yeah.
The only exception to this rule was Luger, but Luger was always big.
Right. Exactly.
Luger's, body never fluctuated. To the day he retired, he was still a big guy. Not as defined, but, oh, man, I would hate to have the body of the 2000 Lex Luger.
Right? Jeez. Only a smaller six-pack.
Yeah, right?
He was
only a
pretty
4-pack.
ripped.
Damn.
Yeah, no, he was.
He was.
And then I guess, like, Sid, right? Because Sid was part of this whole era, too.
Sid was 90... Sid was WrestleMania 8, then he was gone. He was an anomaly, man.
Yeah.
Like, he was there for 8, then he was gone for 9, 10,
And came back.
11.
Did he come back for
Like,
11?
right, he came back at 12 as a bodyguard, fought at 13, then he was gone again. Like, but same thing. He's a big guy, and he always had that build.
Right, exactly.
Mhm.
So, again, like, you have a push towards essentially, like, the talented, like, the wrestling ability, right? With the Shawn Michaels, with Bret Hart, with Razor. And, yeah, it was less...
Owen,
sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Owen,
of course.
yeah.
And so you had this, it was less about, just the land of giants. It was more about, like, telling that story in the ring and showing more athleticism in the ring, akin to what you would have seen in, like, a Randy Savage match in the 80s and early 90s, right? And then, basically they were shifting that kind of the main event scene to those types of wrestlers as well. And I don't know, like, there was something about it where I feel like those were the highlights, but then, because at the same time, Vince was really pushing a lot of shitty gimmicks, I guess, for lack of a better term. Like, the ones who weren't the workhorse wrestlers were saddled with some really bad gimmicks, and it didn't help the fact that they were probably average in the ring at best as well. I think the only exception to that is, and I'd love to hear your opinion on this, but Doink the Clown, where he was an amazing wrestler and a gimmick. Yeah,
Doink was... Well, evil Doink was interesting because he was evil. I don't like to do the armchair quarterback with wrestling too much, but I look at WrestleMania 9 and 10 and go, man, they're such good wrestlers. Not gimmicks, just wrestlers. Like Adam Bomb, not a good WWF superstar, but Brian Clark, the guy that portrays Adam Bomb,
right,
is a good wrestler.
Yep, I would agree.
So just the talent that was in the company at this time that was so misused. Yep. And I've gone on record on other shows that we've done, and WrestleMania 9 is like the worst booked WrestleMania of all time.
Yep.
It's absolutely criminal. Whereas most people say WrestleMania 17 is the greatest of all time and 9 is among the worst. I don't think it's because of the talent. I think it was the way the talent was utilized.
Yep.
WrestleMania 10 is right around there. I mean, yes, you got Undertaker's injured at this one. He doesn't make an appearance. But, Bam Bam Bigelow is fighting Doink and Randy Savage is fighting Crush. I don't know. I'd rather see Bam Bam Bigelow versus Randy Savage.
Sure. Oh, absolutely.
That's a better match. It's just moving of the pieces of the card it would be better.
The talent, exactly. The talent was there, but the way they were booked was not. And again, you wonder, armchair quarterback, you wonder what was he thinking? Why were they booking matches like this? And I don't know. But what do you want to go through the matches and just kind of share thoughts on them? Because I'll be honest with you, I've never watched WrestleMania 10 start to finish. I've seen the two matches I've seen are the ones that most people have seen because they're the most talked about on the entire card. And it goes without saying, the ladder match between Shawn and Razor, and then the first Bret Hart match of the night with Bret Hart versus Owen Hart, an incredible match. So,
yeah, I can go through. This is in my childhood. This was when I was really probably the most in. I don't want to say the most in tune, but starting to really get in tune. Like when Hogan and Savage and Warrior were there. I watched it, but I didn't follow it, if that makes sense.
Right.
Here I'm following and watching and buying the toys and all that good stuff. So there's some things. I have the dark match results. I have the match that was cut from the card results too. Well, there's no results. It was cut from the card. I have the reason why. But yeah, we can go through it. I'll start with the dark match, and then you can kind of take over if you want to go down the matches themselves.
Sure, yeah, that works.
So the dark match, because this is at MSG, by the way. Yeah,
yep,
I'm sure
right.
folks
that was
know.
a big thing, right? Because at least up until 20, every 10 years they would bring Mania back to the Guard, which I think was really cool.
I really think they should have. I mean,
kept it.
Yeah. That's the one. Once every 10 years, you bite the bullet. And here's the thing: it's New York. You could charge outrageous prices. People are going to pay it.
Oh yeah, of course
they're going to.
Yeah.
The dark match was the Heavenly Bodies. I don't know if you know who those are. That's Dr. Tom Pritchard
and Chris Candido.
Close. Well,
okay.
Dr. Tom Pritchard was Candido's partner, Skip and Zip.
That's what I'm thinking of. Okay, so the Heavenly Bodies was Dr. Tom, and then who else?
The Gigolo, Jimmy Del Rey with Jim Cornette. These are Smoky Mountain Wrestling boys.
Okay, all right.
And they defeated, at WrestleMania 10, the Bushwhackers.
Well, okay.
Yeah, I didn't know. I know there's a 10-man tag that gets cut later in the night, but I was not aware of this until I read it, that there was the Heavenly Bodies and the Bushwhackers, but that also shows where Vince and business was. It was not good.
Right. Yeah. So, and plus Vince hates tag team wrestling. That's like always been his thing.
Vince, as we go down this list, you will see that Vince does not like tag team wrestling.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, then why don't we just start going through the matches here and sharing our thoughts on, again, most of these I never watched, so I'd probably just lean on you for your thoughts on the match here. But I got some stats around like any stipulations, the length of the match, which is notable too. We'll talk about that. So first match of the night here, we have Owen Hart versus Bret Hart, with Owen coming out victorious in what is the longest match of the night, coming in at 20 minutes and 21 seconds.
Not surprised there, and Owen wins clean.
He wins clean, which is yeah. So do we want to give him because I know the backstory. We want to share we'll share the backstory first of kind of what led to the match.
Yeah, for a few of these we will. We're not going to go over the 35-second squash match in detail, but this was a great storyline where Bret was already been champion. Owen was the angry, bitter younger brother. They teamed up at Survivor Series 93. Owen was the only one eliminated. He got cranky, and then they patched things up. I'm laughing because of Owen's famous promo. I wonder if you know what I'm going to say.
Where he kicked his leg out from his leg?
Yes! I'm trying to hold it together. That blew my mind as a kid when he kicked his leg out of his leg.
Yeah.
And folks, he just kicked Bret's leg. Like Bret, they fought the Quebecers, who were the tag team champions. Again, that's the tag team champions. That was the turning point where Owen kicked Bret's leg after the match. The referee had called the match a technical victory for the Quebecers because Bret's leg was so injured. He gets up, he stands up, Owen kicks his leg. It's simple. Like, he didn't use a chair. He didn't throw him into like the ring post or the ring stairs or put him through a table. Sometimes simple, especially with Bret. Bret was, the older I get, the more I appreciate Bret Hart.
Oh, absolutely. The stories he told in the match, which is that's what I appreciate more about watching wrestling matches now, is the story that's being told in the ring. And God, he was so good at it.
Owen hit him with a chair or threw him into the steps, that was a wrestling betrayal.
Right.
Owen kicked his leg. I don't have brothers. You do. Brothers get angry at each other. It's more realistic that your brother kicks you in the leg than he throws you against a pair of steel steps.
Yes, because one would be getting in trouble from my parents. The other one would be getting arrested by the cops.
Yes.
In theory.
So, yes, in theory. So that was like a big deal. And then they finally agree to have this match because Luger and Bret both win the Royal Rumble, which is ironic because CM Punk at this Royal Rumble posted a photo of Luger and Bret both winning the 94 Rumble.
Yeah, and you almost wondered, like, hey, is this going to happen 30 years later? Are they going to do it again? And I thought this was going to happen maybe...
I thought it was going to happen too.
Yeah, but it didn't,
So they do a coin flip because they're both going to fight Yoko at Mania. Luger wins the coin toss. He fights Yoko first. The winner of that fights Bret at the end of the night. Bret fights Owen. And many consider this the best opening match in WrestleMania history. I certainly do. I mean, the only other match that I would consider, it's actually going to be something we discuss later down the road with WrestleMania episodes, is Daniel Bryan versus Triple H. But things had changed by then, where a lot of people now consider the opening match of a big event to be the second most important match of the night.
Yeah.
It's not the curtain jerker going out first. Like, you set the tone.
No,
Bret and Owen set the tone of, like, this is... I hate this chant, but this is wrestling.
Yeah.
Especially in this time period, Bret and Owen went out and showed you wrestling. And yeah, Owen does some heel tactics. He pulls the hair and he pulls the tights and pokes the eyes. But at the end of the day, Bret goes for a victory roll, and Owen just sits down. 1, 2, 3, wins clean.
Yep.
And especially back then, you don't see that.
No. And it's interesting because, again, I feel like Owen had probably one of the most consistent character developments over the years into the Attitude Era. As far as, like, you could trace his journey through the WWF and how his character evolved so clearly. And this was such a pivotal point because he was like, no, I beat him. I'm the better brother. Why are you not understanding that? And so then he went on to, win the King of the Ring, and he was the King of Hearts. Or was that before? I'm trying to remember if that was...
It was after this.
That's what I'm saying. So, like, he did all these things, but, like, see, I told you I'm better than my brother. And then he finally joins up with his brother again when they reform the Hart Foundation. And, like, you just track... I love a wrestling character where you can clearly track their evolution over the years, because a good wrestling character does evolve. If it doesn't, then it doesn't stick around.
So if we're going to talk about Owen, I love Owen.
Yes.
He was such a good wrestler. Such a good wrestler. One thing that makes me really upset, obviously, the only thing, well, let me rephrase this. Obviously, what happened to Owen upsets me.
Sure.
And everybody.
Yeah.
But for the character, what upsets me the most is if Steve Austin wasn't freaking red hot in 98, your WrestleMania 14 main event should have been Shawn Michaels versus Owen Hart.
100% agree, because that would have been like 100%. The redemption for the Hart family, or at least an attempted redemption. You know what I mean?
My God. Yeah.
Ugh.
And he fights and he loses to Triple H. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me.
He didn't beat Triple H at that point. What the hell, man?
Yeah. Just so, and after that, he just, boom, just becomes the nation guy, then with Jarrett, and then we all know what happens later on, unfortunately.
Sure,
but
yeah.
You're right. From Owen, from when he kicks Bret's leg out of his leg to the Black Heart, the sole surviving Heart, when he fight to WrestleMania 14.
Yep.
From WrestleMania 10 to WrestleMania 14 is this fantastic journey.
Yeah.
Fantastic journey. A 4-year legacy that at WrestleMania 14, if Austin wasn't red hot, it should have been Owen versus, I shouldn't say shouldn't have been. I completely understand why it was Austin. But if Austin was not at Cody Rhodes level, that's weird to say.
Right.
It would be Owen versus Shawn and Austin versus Triple H.
Yeah. Because you think of, after the screw job in 97, Owen was like white hot. Like they, and for good reason, because of real life.
Oh yeah.
And then it kind of fizzled, which is a shame. You know what I mean?
No, well, Shawn didn't want to work with him.
No, yeah, and that's so. But that's 4 years from the episode, or not the episode, from the event we're discussing here. So let's great match though. I mean, again, the longest match, 20 minutes long, 20 minutes 21 seconds long, easily the longest match on the card, in my opinion, the best match on the card, hands down.
Very much so.
I mean,
and one other thing I want to mention about this is, I'm a Bret Hart mark. His entrance gear, he's wearing not just his patented Hitman leather jacket, is like a longer version of it.
Yeah.
If you're like me and silly things like that stick out to you, it's very cool ring gear that Bret has on. I would say his ring gear at WrestleMania 9, like that hot pink attire, is iconic. And then Bret coming out of that WrestleMania 10 tunnel with the longer leather jacket on is pretty dope also.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. Like, I love how for the big events, the wrestlers always would put on something special, something unique that maybe they would never even wear again. Sometimes they did. Sometimes that was a way to introduce their new attire going forward. I'm trying to think of anyone else that's done that where like that, like they
Shawn
changed.
Michaels.
Yeah.
At WrestleMania 21, he got rid of the tights and he wore like the baggy pants.
Yep, and that was just his thing going forward, and it was because of it was like at that, so which is funny because it's Shawn and with Bret. But anyway, so yeah,
I didn't even realize that. I didn't plan on that.
Right?
Oops. Yeah.
I also remember how, again, like I loved Bret's attire because he just seemed so like. I always loved Bret's. I love the black and pink. I love the jacket, with the glasses and stuff. And it's a look that, like, once he left WWF, he never really did in WCW, which is a shit. Like, maybe very infrequently he did it, but it was like he never had like the big pink tassels with the cool shades that he would give to. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that was not really part of his character when he went to WCW.
Yeah, he was. The thing is, when he left WWF, went to WCW, he was angry,
right?
And he was the angry heart in WCW, and Owen was the angry heart in WWF, and Owen pulled off the angry brother better.
Well, because I mean, you think about it, when Bret went to WCW, he had no one to be angry at there necessarily. He was just
no. I'm just saying, like the gimmick of like Bret just seemed angry in WCW. It's just like,
right,
all right, you got fired from your job.
He didn't even get fired. He left. He put in his notice and left. He just went out a way he didn't want to go out.
Yeah. It's like, essentially, it's like you gave your 2-week notice. You're like, well, thanks for the notice, but you can leave now. Well, I don't want to. Well, my effing company, go.
Exactly.
Let's not go down that rabbit hole because that could be a whole episode.
Yeah, no, that's fine. All right, let's keep going down this card for better for worse here. Talked about Doink earlier on. In our second match of the night here, in our second official televised match, we have Bam Bam Bigelow defeating Doink the Clown, who was accompanied by Dink the Clown in a mixed tag match. This was a Bam Bam and Luna Vachon, Doink and Dink in a 6-minute match. And I
don't understand what Vince had. Vince hates tag team wrestling, and he likes big guys. And he's got Bam Bam Bigelow at WrestleMania 9 off the card. At WrestleMania 10, has him in a mixed tag against Doink. And then WrestleMania 11 versus Lawrence Taylor. I don't know, man. I got Bam Bam Bigelow on my roster for 3 years. I'm doing more with that man.
Yeah. I mean, hell, even if they did a singles match between him and Doink, I feel like that would have been, you know what I mean? I don't know. I feel like you throw in a mixed tag match, it just doesn't, it didn't make, I mean, and I don't know what the storyline was, so maybe it made sense on paper, but like I agree.
No, there's plenty of other guys I would have put Bam Bam. There was, all right, later in the night, there's a match the 1, 2, 3 kid wasn't on. Give a squash match with Bam Bam being a monster against the 1, 2, 3 kid.
Yeah.
Like show him being an animal to get him ready to fight the champion. So
yeah, no, it just didn't happen. All right, so not much to say there. Fair enough. All right, next match, kind of a weird one actually. We have Randy Savage defeating Crush in just under 10 minutes, 9 minutes 49 seconds, in a Falls Count Anywhere match. So again, no memory of what was going on here during this time. What was the situation with this?
So Macho Man was on commentary on Monday Night Raw.
Yep.
He really wanted to work with Shawn Michaels the summer before, but Vince nixed that. They did a storyline when Yoko was squashing, literally, because he did the bonsai drop. He did it to Crush on an episode of Raw and did it like 3 or 4 times, and then Randy Savage came in to make the save because Crush was a good guy here.
Right.
And Crush came, this is in the fall, so this was a long storyline. So Crush came back at the Survivor Series and pretty much called out Randy Savage and turned bad. And what does every bad guy do? You turn on your country and you go against the evil foreigner. Not saying that Yoko was Samoan. Yoko was a Samoan wrestling as a Japanese man in an American country, fighting a Canadian.
Yeah.
Only in pro wrestling.
Yep.
I'm not saying Mr. Fuji was... who is an amazing manager. I love Mr. Fuji.
Oh, yeah.
Or Yoko. I'm just saying the storyline was he was the evil foreigner. So that's how we got Crush and Randy Savage, and it stunk.
Yeah.
Again, it just wasn't... I think Randy Savage. I don't think Crush. I think Bam Bam Bigelow. I don't think Doink. I would have put Bam Bam and Randy Savage on.
Yeah, and you could have even had something where, like, Bam Bam's bullying people because obviously he was standing up for Crush initially, because he was being bullied by you. Like, you could do that where Bam Bam is the one and starts up with them. I agree. I think that could have totally worked.
You take a generic face that Bam Bam's picking on, like a rookie or something like that, like the Kid or like Sparky Plug.
Yeah.
And
here's the thing: have Bam Bam beat Savage. That's fine, and then it elevates Bam Bam.
Yeah,
he beat a former champion.
Yeah, and then he's waiting for either whoever wins that night, Luger or Bret, for the title.
And then there's
your next bad heel.
Dude, we should have booked that. Why didn't we book that?
Yeah,
because we were 7.
Because if you did that,
yeah,
keep Owen beating Bret.
Yeah,
have Bam Bam beat Randy Savage. That means when Luger or Bret are done with the night being champion, that means you got Bret and Luger being face. You got Yoko, Shawn Michaels, Bam Bam Bigelow, and Owen Hart as heels.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Razor as a face. There you go.
Yeah. You've got
would have been great.
Decent program.
And even if you don't have Bam Bam going after the world title, you can have Bam Bam going after Razor.
Yep. Got options.
Terrible decision.
Yeah, I agree.
It was a bad match. He wins by beating him in the parking lot or the loading dock, and he ties his legs up to a pulley system, and the pulley doesn't stay up, and it falls down. You got to pin the opponent outside of the ring, and they have to get to the ring by a count of 10. It was stupid. And it was Randy Savage's last televised match in the WWF.
That's a shame.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bad.
Okay, well, let's move on then. In our 5th match of I guess, again, our 4th televised match of the night here, we have the WWF Women's Championship. Alundra Blaze, the champion, defeated Leilani Kai in a banger of a 3-minute and 20-second match.
Yeah.
I never watched this, but
really
I feel like it probably went how I'm picturing it going in my head.
It was 2 women trying to go out during this era to do their damnedest because they were both ahead of their time.
Yep.
And nobody cared. And it's not on them. It was just... Vince didn't have any women wrestlers. Vince didn't have any tag team wrestlers. He had nothing at this point. He had flakes. It was just a far cry from what he had in his company 2 years prior.
Yeah. Yeah.
And 3 years later, let's put it this way: 3 years before this, everything was great. 3 years after this, everything was great.
Yeah.
There was nothing here.
No. Speaking of women's wrestlers, totally off topic, but did you ever watch the show Glow on Netflix?
I did, yes.
Okay. Did it make you appreciate women's wrestling anymore? Then
I've always appreciated women's wrestling.
That's true. That's fair. Okay.
Just not. I mean, okay. I appreciate women's wrestling. I don't appreciate WWF trying to make women like Tori Wilson, Stacy Keibler. I won't be a homer. I'll throw my girl in there, Dawn Marie. Women that are not wrestlers. Women who are not wrestlers and know they are not wrestlers and don't want to be wrestlers, being forced to go out there and trying to wrestle. There is a difference between a valet and a women's wrestler. There is a difference between a manager a male manager and a wrestler. Paul Heyman is not a wrestler.
Right.
100% He's a manager.
Agree. Yeah.
Tori Wilson was not a wrestler. She was a valet.
Yeah. No, I would 100% agree.
So,
and there's
I've always appreciated the women that wanted to actually wrestle.
Yes.
And then especially even more to the women that were managers that became wrestlers, like legitimate, like Trish Stratus.
Yeah.
Trish didn't have to be a wrestler.
No.
During that era of puppies, she could have just stood outside, gotten her millions of dollars a year and endorsements and video games and posters and everything else and did nothing, but she actually wanted to be a wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
Good for you.
Yeah. All right. Sorry. Bit of a sidetrack there. Match number 5 of the card here, the WWF Tag Team Championship match. We had Men on a Mission, which at this time was Mabel and Mo, with Oscar defeating the Quebecers, Jacques and Pierre, accompanied to the ring by Johnny Polo, a.k.a. Raven. It was a count-out, Lou. This was a count-out match. 7 minutes, 41 seconds long, and it was won by a count-out.
Yep. So there you go. This is why this is the most polarizing WrestleMania, in my opinion. The good stuff is great, and the bad is absolutely god-awful.
Yep.
WrestleMania should not have a DQ or a count-out or any shenanigans, especially in a tag team title match. Now, business is down tremendously. I mean this with all due respect to the Quebecers. What the F would have hurt the company if you had Men on a Mission win the titles and then lose them at the next TV taping?
Right. Nothing, because it's not like it was
nothing.
There was no main event storyline driven by the tag team titles like the past where you had like the Mega Powers with the champion, and like this was. Or wait, did the Mega Powers win the tag team championships?
No, the Mega Powers never won the tag team titles.
Sorry, that was a bad example then. But the point is, like it was the tag team belt set. If you're going to book them like that, obviously you don't care about it. So just do it, make it a good. I will say they've done better with that in recent events. They've made WrestleMania moments, but at the same time, there's some cons with that too. I feel like it's a double-edged sword.
Titles are still unified. They've been unified for a year still. So I don't think Triple H likes tag team wrestling.
That's
like
true.
How hard is this?
Yeah, that's
how hard is this to do rest? I'll tell you what. I love ECW. They weren't good with their tag titles either.
Yeah.
It was hot potatoed too often. AEW, as we're recording, Sting is champion now, which is cool. But then he beat Big Bill. Remember Enzo Amore and what's his name, the big dude?
Yeah, it's a Big Bill.
He's okay, but he's a tag champion. Like, where's this guy been for the last 5 years? Either way, I'm trying to give your company its due. WCW, cared about tag team wrestling
for a little bit anyway.
I think for a long time.
Yeah.
Not at the end. I mean, the last 2 years, WCW is just an effing train wreck.
Yes. It's true.
Russo was Russo. I'm talking about through the entire 90s, from like 90 to 99. You had the Road Warriors. You had the Steiners. You had Harlem Heat. You had the Nasty Boys. You had Public Enemy. You had
the Horsemen.
The Outsiders. The Horsemen. Yes, Sting and Luger. There was a fair amount of legitimate tag teams in WCW.
That's true. You had Steiner and Buff. Oh, God, I love that tag team. Vicious, or no, that wasn't Vicious. What was theirs?
Vicious and Delicious.
That was Scott Norton. And
Norton.
Buff. Yes. Which I love Scott Norton, by the way. I just have such an appreciation for him, too. Totally, again, sidetracked.
Yeah.
Love Scott Norton. Yep. Anyway, so we had a really, I agree. You should not have a DQ or a count-out finish at him. Now, shenanigans, sure. Interference, where there's maybe cheating to win, that's fine. But a definitive bell, ring the bell, this happened. That wasn't what I mean? Like a submission or a pin needs to happen, even if there's cheating. I'm fine with that too. So anyway, all right, well, here we go. We got another sort of shining part of the show-ish. We got our first of two WWF Championship matches on the line here. Because remember, folks, at the Royal Rumble in 1994, you had two winners. They went over the top rope at the same time. in Lex Luger and Bret Hart, and there was a coin flip to determine who would fight Yoko first between the two. So Yoko technically was the one on double duty tonight, theoretically, because he had to fight twice if he won his first match, which he does, by the way. He defeated Lex Luger, who won the coin toss by disqualification.
2 in a row.
Yeah.
Who booked this shit?
I don't know.
How could you book not one, but 2 title matches at a WrestleMania back to back?
Not only was it a DQ, but you also had a special guest referee in Mr. Perfect for this match.
Which, okay, it just makes you, when you're watching this, I know Johnny Polo's not Raven, but you know, in the grand scheme of things, the talent is right there.
Yeah.
It's right there. And seeing Mr. Perfect, you go, oh boy, I wish he was on the card.
Yeah, right?
Wrestling.
He was obviously healthy enough to ref. You would think theoretically he wasn't injured to wrestle, right? I mean, as far as...
He could have did a tag match. He probably could have did a tag match.
Yeah, something. Exactly.
Give me Savage versus Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
God, that'd be amazing. So the match went over 14 minutes, by the way. This is the third longest match on the card here at 14 minutes and 40 seconds. I remember, and again, I haven't watched the match, but I do remember from what I've heard afterwards, Lex Luger didn't win. He won by DQ, right? Or no, I guess Luger technically. This says that Yoko defeated Luger by DQ. What was the actual finish? Because I never watched it.
Luger pushed Mr. Perfect, because at WrestleMania 9... Perfect was the face, Luger was the heel.
Okay.
Luger used his elbow with the steel plate in it.
Yeah.
So Perfect came back and is kind of a heel. People didn't want to boo Mr. Perfect.
Gotcha. Okay.
They didn't.
Yeah. And so...
And in retrospect, spoiler, people know Bret Hart wins. But my thing is, this main USA thing wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
This was your perfect opportunity that maybe Yoko cheats and has his foot on the rope or something like that, and Perfect doesn't see it.
Yeah.
And he clocks. Luger hits Perfect with the forearm again, turns back into the narcissist.
Yeah, something. But they were still trying.
I mean, the narcissist. Chris Masters. No, Mark Jindrak, the reflection of perfection. I mean Rob Conway. No. Oh, God. Rick Rude. No, damn it. Sorry, Vince loves his guys with his muscle gimmicks.
He does. And it's funny, because this I do remember. So even though he lost, he apparently celebrates right afterwards like he won. Like
No, that's SummerSlam. So he beats Yoko at SummerSlam 93, hits him with the forearm. Yoko rolls to the outside, and he can't lift him up to get him back in the ring.
Okay, that's what it was.
Which would have been fine for an episode of Monday Night Raw,
Sure.
but we're talking SummerSlam. This is the second biggest event of the year, or third, depending. Some people say it's the Rumble, some people say it's SummerSlam.
Yeah.
I think Royal Rumble's number 2.
I agree.
Either way, one of the top events of the year. How's that?
Sure.
And now you got him losing by DQ. All right, time to turn the guy heel.
Yeah, which they still didn't.
Turn him heel, hit Perfect, turn him into the narcissist, and there's one of your challengers for Bret. Because if anybody could pull a great match out of Luger, who's having good matches, but to get to that next level, you want 1994 Bret Hart.
Yes. Yep. I agree. All right, so what do we got next here? Oh, here we go. Banger of a match here. 35 seconds long. Earthquake defeated Atom Bomb.
So this is fun. This is okay, though, because Earthquake wasn't around for a while. So this was was a cameo. This was a surprise return.
Okay, so this was not on the cards, like an announced match.
Yeah,
and so Earthquake, did he come back?
Earthquake
as a face?
got a pop.
Okay,
yeah, Earthquake came back he got a pop.
I've always liked Earthquake. He's fun.
Quake needs to be in the Hall of Fame.
Is he not yet? Seriously?
He's not.
Dude,
by the way, it's February. We're recording, end of February.
Yeah.
And at the time this recording, there's no announcements.
Zero announcements
for
Hall of Famers, which is weird because usually it's at the Rumble they announce the first one, right? Or like right around like when the Rumble finishes, like the Raw afterwards. Yeah. But there's been no, and God, that's one thing I would totally have a discussion of, like, people not in the Hall of Fame that need to be, because there's a few. Like one of them is definitely Earthquake, because I didn't realize he wasn't, and what the hell?
Mm-hmm.
There's others. I mean, God, because I know Bam Bam's not in yet, right?
No, I don't know if Bammer's in. I have to look that up.
I don't think he is. I think Crush should be in at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, okay, so this match was okay, you said? As far as for what it was, it was...
For what it was just a quick, because you didn't have Hogan.
Right.
And you had Savage. You needed somebody from that era, like you said, steroids. You're not going to bring in the Warrior. You're not going to bring in Rick Rude. Who's a guy that people will remember that's not doped up on steroids? Well, here comes Quake.
Right.
I loved Earthquake, man. I hated him as a kid because he did his job.
Yeah, he was a great heel.
But as an adult, he's Squid Shake Robert Snake.
What's really messed up too is like Earthquake when he feuded with Hogan and whatnot. I think he was 10 years younger than we are now.
He's the Arn Anderson look. Arn Anderson always looked old.
It's the bald with the beard, man. If Hogan, you think about Hogan with his skullet, right? I mean, the dude when he was main eventing WrestleMania 1, I think was younger than we are now. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And he's always looked perpetually 50. So I don't know. I mean, I think that's why I shave my head totally bald. It helps keep the illusion of youth longer than the obvious horseshoe that I have if I were to grow my hair out.
Yeah.
Anyway. So, all right. Semi-main event here. Again, the only other match I've actually watched from this event, we have for the Intercontinental Championship, the undisputed WWF Intercontinental Championship, Razor Ramon defeating Shawn Michaels in the first ever televised WWF ladder
There you
match.
go.
Yeah.
You did that perfect. It's not the first ladder match WWF had. It's first televised ladder match because Bret introduced it at a house show.
Yes.
With Shawn.
Yes, that's
and
right.
Vince liked it.
I remember that, and then it was because they used to do them in Stampede Wrestling, right?
100%.
There it is.
So here's an interesting fact.
Okay.
It's actually about Scott Hall. Did you know Scott Hall has never been in a Royal Rumble match?
I know because I knew he was in the World War III Battle Royal match in WCW, but never.
So listen to this.
Yeah.
Ready? Scott Hall has never been in a Royal Rumble match, but Razor Ramon has.
I know. I know why.
You know that? You've heard that?
It's fake Razor. Yeah, of course I know that.
It's fake Razor. Fake news, fake Razor.
That's right.
Oh shit! I said fake news. Now YouTube's gonna check fuck up our algorithm.
That's all right. We'll post this on Truth Social. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Razor?
Yeah, great match.
Razor is in its prime right here.
Yes, this is because
this is Scott Hall's best.
Mm-hmm. I would 100% agree. Shawn Michaels too, quite frankly. I mean, he's always. I don't know. I feel like that's probably not fair to say because there's more good Shawn Michaels matches than bad Shawn Michaels matches.
Yeah,
but this was I would say this was peak Shawn Michaels before becoming, the showstopper, the main event, the world champion. Here, you wouldn't see him as a top contender for the world championship yet. To me, this is the peak of his mid card era, I would say.
And the weird thing is, they fight again at SummerSlam '94
yep, for another ladder match. I remember that because there's a whole big story about how they had to change their match style because they all of a sudden weren't allowed to use the ladder as a weapon anymore.
And he hits him by accident, and Vince goes, "Oh, I don't think he meant it."
Right.
Vince on commentary is
I don't know. He's funny.
Awful.
He's funny though.
What a maneuver!
1, 2, and no. He got him. No. So anyway,
tell me that you're the owner of the company without telling me you're the owner of the company.
Exactly. So one thing I want to say too is about this match. This when I think of ladder matches in general, I don't think of these guys first. The first people I think of are the Hardy Boys and Edge and Christian, right? And for all intents and purposes, smaller people, right? Like high flyers, I associate more with ladder matches than essentially giant heavyweights in this match. I mean, I guess Shawn was smaller.
Like Razor?
Like Razor.
Yeah, Shawn's smaller.
Yeah, but Razor, right? It's kind of like when you had in 2002 Jeff Hardy fight The Undertaker for the World Championship in a ladder match, which, by the way, one of my favorite matches of all time. But seeing The Undertaker in a ladder match, right? That seemed kind of weird. However, it seemed perfectly normal for Razor Ramon, who, let's be honest, he's probably basically the same height as The Undertaker, in a ladder match and use it and be take bumps off of it.
Well, here's the reason why. Shawn Michaels versus Jeff Harvey would be a good match.
Yes.
In a ladder match.
I 100% agree.
Razor Ramon versus Undertaker would not be a good ladder
It'd be
match.
a terrible ladder match because you need somebody that
But
can
you
bump
take-
around.
There you go.
Yep.
It's contrast of styles.
Yes.
Can't have two big men in that.
That's fair. I guess because, I remember, wasn't there a ladder match with Kevin Nash against somebody in like later when he came back?
Was there?
I think it was like against Triple H I'm trying to remember. It was like 2000.
It was a Hell in a Cell.
Well, no, but this was like, I'm talking like Punk Pipe Bomb era when Nash came back, fought in a ladder match.
Oh, they butchered that too.
Yeah. Anyway.
Bad.
So, again, second longest match on the card here. 18 minutes, 47 seconds. It's an amazing match. Like, there's been so many discussions on this match. We don't have to go into too much detail, but I love this match. I'm sure you do too.
It's an iconic match.
Yes.
And that, again, there's a difference between, those are really good matches.
Right.
Like I said earlier, well, Bret and Owen is a very, very good match. It's regarded as the best opener. Well, then there's Triple H versus Daniel Bryan. I'm like, maybe it's our age. I don't want to speak for you, but like, I don't view Daniel Bryan versus Triple H in the same breath as Bret versus Owen.
No.
I don't.
No, I
It's
agree.
a good match, but Bret versus Owen, as time goes on, and the guys and gals that are wrestling are around our age, they are the ones that are not saying, Hogan versus Andre was obviously Hogan versus Andre. But they're not saying, Hogan versus Slaughter, like, that was it. That's why I got in it.
Right.
They're saying, like, no, it was Bret and Owen. That was a great match.
Yeah.
This WrestleMania doesn't just have two good matches.
Yeah.
It doesn't have two great matches. It has two iconic, career-defining matches.
Yes.
For four people. For Bret, for Owen, for Razor, for Shawn.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And the rest of it all stinks. And when we did our ranking WrestleManias last year, I told you this was the hardest one I had to rank because they're iconic matches. And then unfortunately, the new video game's coming out where you play in WrestleMania career mode and you play certain matches. Unfortunately, you won't be able to play as Bret and Owen because of the issues with Owen, and I understand. But if you did, this match would be in there.
Yes. 100%. It has to be because other than the ladder match, this is the only match worth anything on this card.
Yeah, the ladder match is in the game. I've seen the screenshot of Shawn, that iconic photo of him jumping, the big splash off of it. So it was also the timing of the match.
Mm-hmm.
You remember, we are 1 year removed. Think about this. Shawn Michaels versus Razor Ramon in a ladder match happens 1 year after Hulk Hogan and Brutus Beefcake versus Ted DiBiase and IRS for the tag team titles.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's 1 year later.
Yeah. And the quality of match that we're getting. Now, I'm trying to think of any other matches on WrestleMania 9 that would have stood out. But yeah, really, even from Shawn Michaels, right? Like, there were just, like, nothing would compared to the two matches on this card that we already talked about as being the highlights.
Shawn had the best WrestleMania match 4 years in a row.
Yeah.
9, 10, 11, and 12.
I would agree. 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But just sometimes you have to take a step back and look at what time. Now, if you're a completely new wrestling fan, you look at Razor versus Shawn, and you don't know it's the first like real big one. You're going to go, well, those other ones with the Dudleys and the Hardys are insane, or what they did in ECW or AEW, they're way bigger. They're doing, Canadian destroyers off the top of ladders through tables. Okay. But this was 1994.
Right.
And let me show you what was happening a year ahead of this.
Yeah, exactly. And you really do appreciate it for it being the first. I mean, it's like anything, really. That was like with the first, it's never going to be the best, but it's going to be the most significant, and it's going to set the bar really. In this case, it set the bar so high, like right out of the gate to top it. And they tried at SummerSlam, and I think they did a really good job, but I feel like this match is better.
They did a good job, but it wasn't the same.
No, I feel like this was better. I agree. But that leads us to our main event, as it were. And again, we kind of go out with a whimper here for the WWF Championship. Yokozuna in the ring once again, this time taking on Bret Hart, who again got the coin flip second pick. So he went on last here, and at 10 minutes and 38 seconds, Bret Hart defeats Yokozuna, which is nice. He has two managers with him now, with Mr. Fuji and Jim Cornette. And this was and Roddy Piper was our special guest referee. So seemed like a pretty overbooked match just going into it. But again, I've never seen it, so I don't know what it was like.
Having Yoko do double duty at the height of his weight.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I feel like he gets heavier in the coming years, though.
Yeah.
So I guess he's still technically at his heaviest as he ever was here, but he just keeps getting bigger.
He's getting bigger,
You think about it, though, too. I mean, and again, because I didn't watch it, did they acknowledge the fact that this is a rematch from the year prior? Like, was that part of the story? Okay. Because I feel
that
like
was part of the story where Bret, got the salt in the eyes.
Yeah.
And Yoko won. They don't mention that Yoko lost like a minute later.
Right.
Because Hogan's gone at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, they were in a no-win situation with this. They needed... If you didn't put Luger in the title picture, where were you going to put him on the card?
Right. Well, because of the way they booked him, what are you going to do? I mean... Yeah.
And if you don't put Bret in the card, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Him versus Owen? I mean, you could. And then you got to wait for Bret to fight at... Remember, there's not a pay-per-view every month. The next pay-per-view is in June.
Yeah, King of the Ring. Yeah,
so you got to wait... You got to wait 90 days for Bret to fight either Luger or Yoko.
And they weren't doing title matches on just like TV tapings at this time?
Not really. They weren't.
Okay.
Very, very unusual at this time. So they backed him. They backed themselves into the corner with the poor booking of Luger. Yoko just falls off the second rope, and that's how Bret beats him. It's very, very underwhelming.
Yeah.
Very underwhelming, but it's a WrestleMania moment. Bret wins the title at WrestleMania 10 at the Garden. I mean, I say that because I've heard and people have said it's the Garden. It's amazing. And I grew up going there. It's awesome, but I don't want to seem like I'm a homer and say, "Oh, it's the Garden." If it's lost its mystique, I don't know. I still see it in when athletes are saying they're excited to perform at the Garden. So I don't know if it meant anything extra.
I'm sure for Bret it did. I mean,
being a
yeah, I mean, he was a wrestling traditionalist. He was a student of the game. Like, the Garden is just as significant in wrestling history as the wrestlers themselves. You know what I mean? Like, the venue is part of it.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he appreciated that too. But now I did want to ask you, because again, I mentioned Roddy Piper as a special guest referee. What the hell was going on there? Because how did that factor in?
Because Bret beat Piper for the IC title at WrestleMania 8.
Okay.
So these were Bret's last two WrestleMania opponents.
Gotcha. Okay.
So there was a little, just like Luger versus Perfect, it didn't really go good for Luger because Perfect was being an a-hole. Piper lost the Intercontinental title to Bret at WrestleMania 8, and they brought that up.
Gotcha. So like, whose side would he be on? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because you're with Roddy Piper, and whoo, I mean, just that the character of Roddy Piper could put everybody in a sleeper hold and tell you to screw off and leave the ring with both guys on the mat.
Exactly. Yeah. No, you're
I mean,
right.
They wouldn't do that because it was WrestleMania, but you get that little doubt in your head. It's Roddy Piper.
Yeah.
It's Madison Square Garden. It's WrestleMania, and Bret beat him for the title. They beat him for the IC title 2 years ago. You don't know what Hot Rod's going to do.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
Another guy who I would have been better on lacing up the boots.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. At this point,
give me Piper and Perfect.
Go. Hell yeah. Piper
give me Piper and Perfect.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree. Now, you mentioned that there was a match that was cut from the card. It was a 10-man tag team match, you said?
Yes. So in between the ladder match and the world title match, there was supposed to be a 10-man tag. Apparently, Razor and Shawn went into business from the autobiography of Hardcore Holly. He called The Hardcore Truth.
Okay.
He said that Shawn and Razor went to what he says business for themselves and ignored the cues from the referee to go home. So the 10-man tag of IRS, the Head Shrinkers, Jeff Jarrett, and Rick Martel. How about that? I didn't know Rick Martel, but against the 1-2-3 Kid, Sparky Plug, the Tonka, and the Smoking Guns. Okay, here we go. So I could take that group right there and build a better WrestleMania card.
That's fair. Yeah.
Get rid of Men on the Mission and put the Smoking Guns in. There you go.
Yep.
Get rid of Doink. And give me Bam Bam versus Tatanka.
Yeah, okay. That'd be
Better
good.
match.
Yep.
And get rid of, let's see. Get rid of Crush. Give me Randy Savage versus Rick Martel.
Yeah, that works.
All those would be better matches, in my opinion.
I agree. Yeah, no, you can't disagree.
Yep.
All right, well, that's WrestleMania 10 in the books here, and that's our first in our journey towards finishing the story here on Generation S. And you see what I did there?
I like that.
Yeah. So now I will say, so you would think next time we're going to be talking WrestleMania 20. However, we are taking a pit stop between 10 and 20 with what I believe, and many of you listening probably believe if you're wrestling fans, to be the greatest WrestleMania of all time. I'd be curious if you feel that way too, Lou. And we'll get there. We'll talk about it. But next week we are going to be discussing WrestleMania 17. It is the X7 peak attitude era WWF. This was fever pitch. This was right after WCW folded. ECW was about to fold, or did they fold? They were in limbo.
They were in limbo.
So WWF was the only game in town, and their fans were as ravenous as ever for what is to be considered, again, the greatest WrestleMania ever. And I'm so excited to talk about it because we never really talked about it.
Yeah, I watched it not too long ago, and the memories flooded back of, wow, everything is just...
Yeah. So good.
So you talk about bad creative in this, at WrestleMania 10, the creative at WrestleMania 17 is off the charts good.
Yes.
Even when they stumble, they still okay, not go into detail, but during this time at WrestleMania 10, if a star came out and couldn't do the event, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
Not a main event, but Jerry Lawler walked out all right, let's put in Taz. Oh, that's believable. Guy's a former ECW champion. It was just they couldn't do anything wrong here.
Yeah, no matter what they did, it was going to work to some degree.
Guy walks out 2 weeks before WrestleMania. Sure, no problem. We got to fill in.
Yep.
And it actually makes more sense.
Yes. So, yeah, I'm so excited. Next week, we're talking WrestleMania 17. We're going to do a little bit of a deep dive there and then continue on with WrestleMania 20 and then WrestleMania 30, which, again, is no longer really in nostalgia territory, but that's okay because we're finishing our story here with Generation S as we transition into a new era of a new generation, if you will.
Holy crap, man. You're hitting it. You're hitting home runs today.
You like that? I'm batting 1,000, man.
I do. I like
Hopefully,
that.
better than the new generation of the WWF with what we're going to be doing, guys. As a reminder, pivoting over to a brand new podcast, still under the Generation S umbrella, backwards compatible, where we talk all about old school video games and the nostalgia that comes along with it, from pixels to polygons, as it were. So very excited about that, and we're still a few weeks away from it, but this gives you a chance to get hyped up for it, right? I'm not going to tell you the first game we're going to be discussing, but you'll know it'll make sense very quickly once we tell you what it is, but that's coming in a few weeks here. Guys, if you like what we're doing here, if you like retro games, tell your friends to start listening. If they like the 90s and 2000s, make sure they check us out on some of the older episodes where we've covered pretty much everything under the sun, save for a few big topics that I do eventually want to cover, and we may release those as bonus episodes on the regular feed, or they may be sitting over on our YouTube channel at Generation S, which you should go check out and give us a subscribe and a follow. And we will be back next week to discuss WrestleMania 17 in our journey towards finishing the story for Generation S. And with that being said, Lou, thank you so much for joining me. And we'll talk to you soon.
Goodbye.